Why don't we just do that all the time?
We'll get started. Andy had contacted me and said that he was sick and could not make the council meeting, so we'll get the workshop session started. We can call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Here.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Here.
Councilmember Heenan?
Here.
Councilmember Civiletto? And Councilmember at-large Washington was excused.
Correct. What we'll need, I guess, for the council meeting is, we'll do that in a minute. What we'll need in the council meeting then is, I think, a motion to have me sit in for Andy or whoever else will want to do it, but he had asked me to do it for him, and then have a vote on that, and then carry on with the meeting. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we skip over certification, we skip over reading of the privilege of the floor, skip over privilege of the floor. Mayor, communications from the mayor, including disapproval messages. You got anything? Communications from the public and petitions.
Number 1, request from the Walk to End Alzheimer's Committee to allow the placement of lawn signs at City Hall and at the entry gates of Point Gratiot for the September 21st, 2019 Walk to End Alzheimer's at Point Gratiot Park.
We need a motion to send that wherever we need it, and any discussion.
You first and I'll second all. How's that? Sounds good. Okay. That'll make it easy.
Rich, where would we send these to you, or do they, it's a request for,
That's just a request to put some signs, lawn signs out.
so we refer it to the legal?
Yeah, legal.
Refer to law and DPW.
Number 2, request from SUNY Fredonia for permission to hold a beach cleanup at Point Gratiot Beach on September 21st, 2019 from 12 p.m. until 2 p.m.
Motion for any discussion first about it? Then we would need a motion to refer it to the appropriate departments pending approval. Okay. Hope you're next. Okay.
Number 3, request from Douglas McCullough to have city water and sewer hookups to his new home being built at 80 Ounce Street.
We would refer this to the departments needing to handle that, DPW, I'm assuming law department. And where? Treasurer. And treasurer. First by Marty, second by Sean.
Sure.
Oh, you're next.
Okay, number 4, request from Franceli Vargas Hernandez for permission to have a bounce house at the Brooks Pavilion at Point Gratiot on September 7, 2019 during her child's birthday party.
Any questions, discussion? We'd also need a motion to send that to the appropriate department pending approval. Marty first.
Yep. I'll second.
All right.
Good.
Mike second.
Yeah, jump in, Mike. Yeah.
Number 5, prior written notice from Michael Decker of 619 Eagle Street advising of a decaying tree between the sidewalk and street in front of his residence.
That be received and filed.
Number 6, notice of claim from Robert Goreski of 129 South Jerboa Street for damages allegedly acquired on July 7, 2019, and basement flooding after rain / backup of sewer system.
I'll make a comment in there. Need a motion to refer this to the law department?
I will so move that. So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Number 7, notice of claim from Vicky Westling of 130 Ocelot Street for damages allegedly caused to a fence post at her home from a falling tree limb.
We need a motion to refer that to the law department.
Second.
All right,
It's a single loudspeaker application.
okay.
Number 8, loudspeaker application from Franchelli Vargas Hernandez to use the DJ equipment from 4 to 8 p.m. on September 7, 2019 at the Brooks Pavilion at Point Gratiot.
All right, I guess we need a motion to refer that to all the departments needing to check that out. There is a decibel level, right, that they gotta follow? That everybody does? I think that's usually what he ends up saying. All
Yeah, I
right,
do.
You have one?
motion to refer it to the departments?
So moved. Second.
And Marty with the second.
I have a walk-on.
We have an additional.
Ready?
Yeah.
This is a formal request for a new 6-inch water line tap to an existing 8-inch main located on the south side of a building located at 1170 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, New York. And there's additional information. This is for the new VA Medical Clinic at 1170 Central Avenue, also known as DNF Plaza, and this is going to be for a sprinkler system.
Need a motion to send this to the appropriate departments for approval?
So moved.
All right, we're just gonna call this number 9 then?
Yeah, the walk-on. I don't have a number for it.
All right. Let's just say it's 9.
Yeah.
Number 9.
Reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. Nothing? Councilman Civillo, nothing? Sorry, I'm going around the table more than the order of the wards. Nothing? Unfinished business? Pre-filed resolutions.
Number 80, resolution authorizing budget line modifications for fiscal year 2019.
Any discussion here? Okay.
Number 81, resolution tightening access to brush and grass recycling at DPW Lucas Avenue barn location.
I'll talk about it here and in the meeting. We had our last DPW committee meeting at the Lucas Avenue barn location, and a few of the neighbors who have also in the past sent a petition asking different things. We decided that we wanted to, one big thing that would help would be to tighten up what's going on with the brush, the grass, and all that going on over there. So I believe the resolution we were looking at was to stop the contractor dumping. Was that?
Well, we looked at that, but the issue there is we have a lot of homeowners and vacant properties that either because of disability or age can't do themselves. So we want to avoid a law and consequences. We have to look a little at that. And if we were to do it, there's some kind of carve-out for people that contracts through city property lots versus outside properties outside the city. So we have to differentiate. That's why we have to figure out how much of that is going on, what the permits that are already. So this is basically an exploratory to look at that. We have to look into it a little further, dig in the weeds, and then figure out how best to handle that.
Well, I know the resolution that I asked for was to stop the contractor dumping there.
That's the problem, is legally you set the city up for a lot of legal issues if you do it willy-nilly like that.
There was a long time that we didn't do it at all, and there's also other municipalities that don't even take any brush.
Correct, but like I said, you already have people with full permits that are doing it, so if you do that mid-spring, especially towards the end of summer.
I'm not saying,
Open doors.
I was meaning for it for starting January 1st.
Well, this is.
So at the end of this
Yeah.
year, to not sell any more permits. We got a contractor from Hamburg that is coming in and dumping here.
Correct, which is why we need a carve-out to show that if they're doing it for city-owned properties that are located in the city, that it should be allowed. But if it's somebody who's just bringing stuff from outside,
Put an end for future contractor dumping.
that's something that has to be explored.
Not just this.
Do it carefully. is why I didn't do it willy-nilly like that, because that opens the city up to potential liability.
I don't think it does, but
We'll agree to this.
we will. All right, new business. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Dunkirk Common Council meeting for September 3rd, 2019. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Here.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Here.
Councilmember Heenan?
Here.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Here.
Councilmember at Large Washington.
He's excused. All right, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with our councilman at large absent for the meeting and excused, we need a motion so that I can fill in his place.
I will first that.
Okay, first by Councilman Civiletto, second by Councilman Bamanto. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Certification of prior meetings.
This is to certify that an official copy of the minutes of the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, August 20th, 2019 was presented to the mayor on Thursday, August 29th, 2019. Pursuant to Section 3.03 of the Dunkirk City Charter, all items presented to the mayor are now in full force and effect. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and the seal of the city of Dunkirk, New York, this third day of September, 2019.
And need a first?
First.
Councilman Bamanto with the first.
Second.
The second by Councilman Heenan.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Reading of the privilege of the floor regulations.
The privilege of the floor shall be extended to any person appearing for themselves, in which case that individual shall be limited to 3 minutes, and to any person representing a group who shall be limited to 5 minutes. When recognized, please stand and state your name and address. The city clerk shall have the duty of maintaining such time limits, and the councilman at large may determine in his discretion whether individuals are speaking for themselves or representing groups. Councilman Williams shall maintain good order and may require any speaker to cease speaking if remarks are made in bad taste or slanderous or non-germane to any action taken or contemplated by council. The time limits specified shall be strictly adhered to, except that a speaker may be allowed to complete a statement or thought started before such time has expired.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, the privilege of the floor is now open. Anybody want to? Okay. It's not working that way. I can't.
Nancy Nichols,
I can try.
212 Lincoln Avenue in Dunkirk. It's not going to be long, it's not a complaint, but I think I'm going to give Mr. Woodbury another job to please look at our Indian. He's in dire straits. Before he gets put away in his protective box around him for the winter, that maybe a couple coats of polyurethane or whatever gets put on him. A lot of money was spent to resurrect him from what he was. I remember when that guy was being carved over on 5th and Park back in the early 70s, and we need to keep him. So if maybe Mr. Woodbury can, okay, Mr. Woodbury, I got the signal, thanks.
Thanks, Nancy.
That's you, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm glad you're up there today. I won't get any mockings, I hope. Thank you. And I'm going to read a letter, and it starts with saying what the city can do to help lead the Observer in Dunkirk. In Dunkirk without, can you hear? All to leave the Observer in Dunkirk. We have to stop the Post-Journal. It's been 2 years that we fought them to stop it, and they keep on pushing. And as I read this letter, you're going to see what they've been doing. We need Dunkirk to fight for the Observer. I need 5 minutes. I have other people, okay, because I'll read slow. This is to summarize how our Dunkirk administration has failed us in the 8 years and have allowed Chautauqua Chamber of Commerce of Jamestown to take over with everything, and beginning with the Observer. Let's take this past Friday. There were all kinds of sporting events, including the Buffalo Bills preseason game being held at night, but nothing appeared in Saturday's Observer edition. Then Saturday's paper came for Sunday, and no longer a paper on Sunday. We have no current update news of any kind, especially local, on Sunday, either by radio or the Sunday newspaper. This can be disastrous, especially living close to our neighbor Canada. I have written articles for Dunkirk Observer for over 40 years. What right did our Dunkirk personal director and the mayor of Jamestown have control over Wright Beach Park? Our firemen, let's say our waste treatment park, they did. We had a flood in the first ward 2 days before. Our firemen were testing the water all over the city. No one was to swim in that water or of our beaches after a storm, but they did. We are requesting the health department to give the daily reports of all the water quality and safety to the Senator Charles Schumer, who is on the Great Lakes with us, Council for Pollution, Safety, and Security of New York State Beaches. SPEDS is untreated sludge, and it was let out. It was let out the day after the storm. How dare that we could let them swim there? But Dunkirk let them swim. We spotted swimmers at Wright Park Beach, many cars without a state plate. There was no swimming signs to be found. I contacted an assembly, Andrew Goodell, who said the beaches were great when he spoke about on that Dunkirk pier. I told him they made a fool of him. I saw the mayor of Jamestown at Dimitri's the same day and asked them to contact the mayor and the council and have them report that our beaches be put in a paper or on the radio. He said he would, but he never did he, Mayor? He never did. The new hospital will be built on the parking lot of the Brooks Hospital like it was intended. Where is the $57 million for remodeling? The original $10 million will be used for Central Avenue, for Brooks Hospital, and the Brooks Train Depot. Mr. Brooks is an icon. We will not let his name be forgotten. The others should get help are P&G for Restaurant and the Observer with Jack D'Agostino, the head one in Dunkirk. They're trying to stop him from telling the truth about what is actually happening in the city of Dunkirk. Dimitri should also receive help.
Sorry, Valerie,
I got only
your time's,
one more
just
line.
finish your thought. Okay, that's your 5 minutes. I gave you 5 instead of 3, so just finish the
We are
thought.
proud of Dennis Hefner, who is back from Fredonia, and he's going to have his dream come true, keeping the incubator open, the train station, and hiring ex-Under Sheriff Charles Holden, who'll be helping at the college.
All right, thank you, Valerie.
That's life.
Valerie, that was, Valerie, I can't let you keep going. You got the 5 minutes. You finished the sentence. That's what you told me before.
You can throw me out.
Oh, Valerie.
The Fredonia State Technology Incubator has done a lot for Dunkirk. Our
gotta get her out of
director,
there.
Chuck Cornell, Nicole Wade, Sandy Tapasco, and I first started it at the Fourth Ward Fire Hall, representing from Syracuse, which helped us on transportation. I thank you.
Why, thank you too. Anybody else wishing to speak for the privilege of the floor?
It's an honor to speak before all of you today, and I would like to thank you for improving the sound system at home. I can hear it very well now, and I have only 3 items to bring up. The first is hiring another police officer. The second is the LED lights, and the third is remedying the storm sewers and sleeves to be put under the manhole covers to make the ride more even, like they had in Fredonia. They put the sleeves under the manhole covers, and it's like the cars don't. It's a smooth ride. First of all, we should take a bite out of crime and try and find in the budget money to hire another police officer. There was one that was not replaced, and he's greatly missing in certain areas of police work. And I think that's vital. One of the purposes of government, city government, is to protect the public, and we certainly need another police officer. And again, I was going to ask about the LED lights. Will they be put up before winter? Well,
They'll answer at their time. If it's not a back and forth, so they'll answer at their time if they
okay.
if they
I was
wish
told that
afterwards.
because it's a grant, we don't have to pay for our lights. It's covered by the grant. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sandy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak during the privilege of the floor?
Nick Penque, 745 Grant Avenue. I have a couple of quality of life issues that seem to go by the wayside in this city. The first one is fires. Why in God's name is a neighbor allowed to smoke his fellow neighbor out with a fire at nighttime? I have 2 neighbors down the street from me, and they both decide to have fires. They think they got campground or something. I have asthma, so I gotta close my windows, gotta run my air conditioner, so I should charge the city money. I should charge them for that. We need to find a way to get rid of the fires in the city. This is like my 4th or 5th time trying to do this. Past administrations have blown me off, and it is election time, so maybe something can happen here. And another thing is the noise in the city. The cars are just banging their music and rattling windows when they go by, and also homes. And I think something needs to be done. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak during? Got it, he got up.
Good evening, everybody. Paul Vandenboer, 818 Central Avenue, candidate for councilman at large in the city of Dunkirk. Just want to speak on behalf of this gentleman here tonight. We had same issues over in Central Avenue between Central and Washington. I did give Mike a call, and his crew went over there and extinguished the fire. So there's no more camp fires, but I do understand where you're coming from. The other thing that I want to bring up is the loud music. It just seems like those small vehicles, there are probably $500 cars with $5,000 stereos in it. But I did see Mark, your guys, up on Central Avenue during that festival they had over the weekend, ticketing them and pulling them over. So I really appreciate that. I know all the residents do too. The other thing I want to bring up, Labor Day weekend, I had a bunch of people come up to me and stop me and approach me and just wanted me to refer a couple things to the council. First thing is, I was wondering if we can get some kind of overtime total for the boat races. I know it's been a couple weeks, and I was wondering if you can get a total for all the department heads. And they want to also know why Pierce Services were out there taking the logs off of, I want to say Lakeshore Boulevard, when they also had our union guys should have been doing that. So that was another topic. And one more other thing, during the events and the festivals, it seems like your brother Hector, Willie, is always up there. Seems like he's campaigning for you at everything. He's up on stage on city taxpayers' dime doing this. Even at night when he's getting paid overtime, he's out there promoting your candidacy and the other Democrats. I was wondering, Dave Campola, you're the HR guy. You should be looking into this if you could. And the city attorney and the council. This has to stop. I know it's the end of the summer, but this has to stop where Hector's riding around promoting the mayor. All right? Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to use the privilege of the floor?
Hi, Jim Fisher with Revitalize Dunkirk. I just have a few quick announcements. We're going to have our general monthly meeting on the 19th of this month down at the Incubator, 214 Central Avenue. So come down and join us for a meeting. And also on the 22nd, we're going to have our September BYOC, or Bring Your Own Chair, Sunset Watch at the Point. And we're going to have a bonfire set up and lit by the DPW department and the fire department. So it's always a fun event. Everybody likes fire for some reason. They like to see the fire on the beach and enjoy the sunset. So come out and join us. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, James.
Anyone else have anything for privilege of the floor?
Hi, Mary Louise McGraw, 736 Swan Street in Dunkirk. A couple of things. I was a complete naysayer about beer. Complete. It's beautiful. I was impressed. I know that's a sacred cow in this city. Okay, I realize that. But whoever did the design and everything, it looks beautiful. It really does. The flower people that are hanging flower pots in the city, I already complimented Revitalize. I already complimented them. And if you haven't seen the hanging pots on 4th Street, you need to. They're breathtaking. The colors just are amazing. They're gorgeous. The other thing I'd like to do, I saved the worst for last. I'd like to know if there's any pending decisions regarding the placement of a methadone clinic. Now, this might not be done yet, but it is in the works. If it is, it would not be a smart idea that the Dunkirk voting community should be apprised or informed of any possible locations that are seriously being entertained. If transparency is key, because we know the last debacle of the clinic placement was crazy town, okay? Why are the citizens of this community not part of that discussion? Has the mayor, city attorney, or any council member in touch with anyone from Hispanics United in regard to any business involving the clinic. My word, what I've been hearing, and I just want clarification, word has it that a methadone clinic will be opening in mid-September somewhere on Central Avenue in Dunkirk. That does not make me happy. If history repeats itself, and all of those in the position of knowing allow this to fly under the radar with total lack of transparency in a clandestine kind of form, I don't appreciate that as a voting citizen of the city. All I want, all the people of this community want, is the truth. I was born here, raised here, moved away for 21 years, moved back 29 years ago. We have an incredible, incredible city. We have a very valuable asset, and we're all stewards of that asset. And I'm not able to defend it or whatever like some of you people are, but it's our job to do that. And a methadone clinic in the business district of Dunkirk is not the answer. I didn't say a methadone clinic was an answer. I just said not in the business district. I trust Hispanics United as far as I could throw them after that mess last year.
Okay, and that's your time's up, sorry.
See ya. Do I get an answer to my question?
At some point in time, somebody may answer it.
All right.
Anybody else wishing to use the privilege of the floor?
Hi, my name is Mary Mughal-Faro, and I live at 760 Park Avenue. And I just want to congratulate, a lot of times we complain about stuff, but I want to congratulate the city for all the workers. This weekend was one of the weekends that it was full of things for everyone to do. If you wanted to go to the Falcon Club, to the fairgrounds, there was something to do. And I grew up in this city, and I love this city, I work in this city. And a lot of people before used to say there's nothing to do in town. But this weekend there was a ton of things to do. So congratulations to the city workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Anybody else wishing to use the privilege of the floor?
Yes, my name is Jen Delgado. I live at 321 Robin Street, Dunkirk. I just want to reiterate, as we're touching back on the situation last year when it came to the methadone clinic that was trying to be placed on the corner of 3rd and 4th, that used to be a Suboxone clinic prior to that, and it was used for the same services. I also want to reiterate that it feels like, first of all, you may not want it in a business district, but there's not many other districts that it can legally go into anyways. We're not going to want to put it next to your neighbor. It's not going to want to go in a residential place. I know from being a community activist that there are many people that are living in Dunkirk that are utilizing the methadone clinic in Buffalo, and they are being clean. They are now only on methadone and have been clean for months, and these were people that have been drug addicts for years, and they're saying it's saving their life. So when it comes down to caring about the citizens of this city who happen to be in the middle of an opioid crisis and have to be very well drug addicts that can't even get jobs and can't get off welfare, that for the betterment of the city, a methadone clinic is something that we actually need. And I'm just sticking up for that fact because I know plenty of people who are being bused or taken to Buffalo every single day and are using this program, and they're becoming clean. They're holding apartments, they have bank accounts, they have cars, they're getting back into society, and if it wasn't for methadone, they would still be where they were last year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. Anybody else wishing to speak during the privilege of the floor section? Last chance, anybody else? Privilege of the floor is closed. Communications from the mayor, including disapproval messages.
Councilman, I have 3 announcements, and then I'd like to reply to some of the statements that were made. The first is
The HUD monitoring was successfully completed. This August, the city's Community Development Block Grant Program was required to undergo a monitoring review by HUD. The report just came back and stated that our program had no concerns or no findings in the monitoring report. I'm very proud of the successful program that the city is running through the CDBG funding. We will continue to work carefully to follow HUD regulations in order to implement projects and programs that benefit our city residents. This is important. As you know, I don't need to remind you, it was just a few years ago where the city was forced to pay back over $1 million. So this is very important. It's great news that we've come back with no findings in our report. Dog Park, the city's first dog park is now officially open. This past Friday, the city celebrated the official opening of the Hazelton Dog Park. There were many residents that showed up. Purina's team donated dog bowls, treats, bandanas, leashes, and hats to celebrate the day. Because of the continued donations, we have purchased a dog bridge and community bulletin board that will be installed at the park. I attended the event. It was very good to see all the support that was there, including the support from our police department as we named the dog park after Officer Hazelton. The Wells and Philbrook project is continuing to move forward. We continue to work with them. Wells continues to make major improvements to their facility. Upgrades will total to approximately $100 million and will include upgrades to the loading docks, internal improvements, access improvements, parking improvements, and a new electrical substation. The city will continue to work with Wells in order to support their expansion and success in our community. Again, I've met with the CEO, and these people are very excited, and just recently there's going to be a press release out. They just also purchased property in Henderson, Nevada to increase their footprint in that area as well. Again, this project is looking to bring in over 50 more jobs to our area, and each one of these jobs is looking to pay approximately $50,000 each with a full benefit package. As far as the LED project is continuing. We have finished most of the parks in the city. Most of the city facilities are now done. City Hall, they're looking at starting at City Hall here this week. I'm not sure what the timeline is as far as completion, but we hope to be done by the end of the year. As far as the complaint on our special events coordinator, I have been attending these events right along. I have not seen anything that would indicate that there's any type of political shenanigans going on there. I believe the complainant is a candidate for councilman at large, and although I know him personally, I have a lot of respect for him, I am not supporting him. I'm supporting his opponent, and that may be why this is coming up now. And as far as the Methadone Clinic goes, the update to council, as you know, we have been in contact with the Acacia Network, which is the head affiliate of the Hispanics United of Buffalo. That has been ongoing. That has been going on for years. As far as transparency goes, that has been very public. So if there's any further information that is, inquired, please come forward and we can do that. We can provide you with all the information that you want. As far as the Methadone Clinic goes, they are still working at looking at a site. They looked at several different sites, and they may be close to picking and choosing a site. As far as the Central Avenue site goes, I'm unaware of that. I don't believe that that is a proper location for it, but I'm unaware that that is even a possibility.
This came up in drug court with people who, are dealing with professional drug problems. I'm just telling you where it came from.
Okay, I'm just telling you, I'm the mayor here in the city. As chief executive officer, if that was going to be happening, I would think that I would be aware of it. Thank you. That's basically all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I just want a little reminder, the public portion of the meeting is over for the privilege of the floor, so it shouldn't really be a back and forth, just procedural. He answered the question. I know. Just all right. Next, communications from the public and petitions.
Number 1, request from the Walk to End Alzheimer's Committee to allow the placement of lawn signs at City Hall and at the entry gates of Point Gratiot on September 21st, 2019. Walk to End Alzheimer's at Point Gratiot Park.
Need a motion to approve pending appropriate departments and insurances. First by Councilman Bomano, second by Councilman Heenan. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye. That finally
Councilmember
works.
Heenan? Aye. Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Number 2, request from SUNY Fredonia for permission to hold a beach cleanup at Point Gratiot Beach on September 21st, 2019, from 12 p.m. until 2 p.m.
Need a motion to approve this pending appropriate departments and insurance.
First.
First by Councilman Bomano, second by Councilman Heenan. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Number 3, request from Douglas McCuller to have city water and sewer hookups to his new home being built at 80 Ounce Street.
Need a motion approving this pending the approval of the departments, appropriate departments and insurance. Motion by Councilman Bomano, second by Councilman Heenan. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Number 4, request from Franceli Vargas Hernandez for permission to have a bounce house at the Brooks Pavilion at Point Gratiot on September 7, 2019 during her child's birthday party.
Motion to accept this, approve this pending the approval of appropriate departments and insurance.
Sure.
Motion by Councilman Bomano,
Second.
second by Councilman Civiletto. Clerk, please call the
Councilmember
roll.
Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Carried.
Number 5, prior written notice from Michael Decker of 619 Eagle Street advising of a decaying tree between the sidewalk and the street in front of his residence.
This is received and filed. Number 6.
Number 6, notice of claim from Robert Goreski of 129 South Jerboa Street for damages allegedly acquired on July 7, 2019 in basement flooding after rain / backup of sewer system.
Before I get the motion for that, I just wanted to add to this, on that Sunday morning, Mr. Goreski called me up, and I actually was in his basement while the water was still flowing, so I did see all that down there, and it was quite a mess. So he said that he gets that, and I think we've talked about it with Director Woodbury a few times, where they have said that they think that it's been since the work on the wastewater treatment plant that they've been getting more water there, but just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, sorry. This isn't working too well, but he says it's working on the TV. But anyways, I was there. That's all I want to say. We need a motion to send that to the law department.
First. Second.
First by Councilman Civiletto, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Number 7, notice of claim from Vicky Westling of 130 Ocelot Street for damages allegedly caused to a fence post at her home from a falling tree limb.
Motion to refer to the law department.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Civiletto, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
We have 1 loudspeaker permit. Number 8, loudspeaker application from Franceli Vargas Hernandez to use DJ equipment from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. on September 7, 2019 at the Brooks Pavilion at Point Gratiot.
Need a motion to approve this pending appropriate departments.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Civiletto, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Carried. Reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions.
Number 9.
Oh, got one more. Sorry. Forgot about that one.
Number 9, formal requests for a 6-inch water line tap into an existing 8-inch main located on the south side of the building located at 1170 Central Avenue. And this is for the Veterans Affairs Medical Clinic at 1170 Central Avenue. and they're doing this for a fire sprinkler system accommodation.
Okay, need a motion to approve this pending appropriate department and insurance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Civiletto, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, now reports to standing committee, boards, and commissions, and I'm going to wait and go last, so we'll go with Councilman Bomano first.
Can't do that.
Yes, I can.
I get last.
Okay, Rebecca, can you give us what's happening at Picnic at the Point this Saturday?
Sure. This Saturday, September 7th, will be Picnic at the Point. It's brought to you by United Healthcare. There'll be 3 bands that day, and it starts at 1 o'clock and goes till 7:30. There'll be a lot of fun kids' activities and lots of good food, so come out and enjoy that at the Point.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. On this past Saturday, I was at the Point for the Heritage Fest, and that ran all day into the night. And I was there till like 9:30, and the people were still there, and it was going on. It was well attended. It was good to see the people out. Great weather, and that was just another thing that was mentioned earlier. Another thing that was happening in the city. And thanks for everybody for showing up. Hope to see you at the Point Saturday. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Heenan?
Richard, this is a question for you, and this might be slow starting, but hopefully we'll get around to it. It had always been under my impression, maybe not so wise, that our contract with the Race World Offshore was done through the DLDC. After obtaining that contract from your office, I noticed there is no mention of the DLDC whatsoever in that contract. And I guess if you could enlighten me why the city is the part of the contract and not the DLDC.
Sure. So the city is the party to the contract, as the city is the one that sponsors the event. The DLDC is the pass-through, the 501c3 pass-through for donations, private donations that help fund or underwrite the event. And so the DLDC, which is related to city government, essentially works in companion with the city to provide that funding, private funding, as donations to be sponsors for the event.
Well, my question is this. It's signed by the mayor of the city of Dunkirk. It refers to the city throughout of it. We know that the DLDC has a separate board, and the chief executive officer of that board is the mayor. It only seems right to me, and we may agree to disagree, but then I will ask you also to give me a written legal opinion on it, that since the mayor had signed this, as you know, in our city charter, we allow the mayor to execute all contracts, deeds, and leases through a resolution. I went up and down, and my apologies if I couldn't find it. I could not find any resolution that gave the mayor the right to execute this contract.
I'd have to look at our records. I'm assuming we did one, but I don't know offhand.
Well, I'm pretty sure we didn't, but I will look forward to your reply for that, and we can go from there. And I don't know where we go from there. To me, it's an abuse of the council. It kind of did an end around on us. I never had asked questions before because I assumed that it was to the DLDC. And I'll move on to the next question, and hopefully you can come up with that, and I will ask again at the next meeting. The next one is for possibly yourself and Marcia, and this has to do with the purchase of the weed harvester. And Marcia was very helpful in obtaining me the information that I needed. And when I asked her about the sale or the purchase of that equipment, she said we had invoiced it December 26, 2018, and we actually purchased it January 23rd of 2019. And that was good. I mean, that was great. She also sent me a copy of the invoice. The question I have is, when we purchased this, I was told that this was purchased from contingencies. After reviewing the comptroller's workbook, and it's laid out to me that we cannot make a purchase out of contingencies for the sake of a purchase. Any money There's no direct expenditure that can be charged to this account. Instead, the balance needs to be transferred to another appropriation account, which means that we would need a budget modification to allow this to be paid out of just plain contingencies, if I understand this correctly. I went back and forth and could not find a budget modification anywhere in the last 6 months prior and 6 months after that had this purchase in mind. And this budget modification, again, would have had to go through council. So here's 2 instances here where council did not have a say or a vote in giving the mayor the correct right to sign a contract or a lease, or an invoice for that matter, a purchase.
So, just so we're clear, and then I'll defer to Randy and Marcia on this, there's a difference between purchasing equipment and a contract that goes before council. The departments purchase equipment all the time without council approval because that's usually budgeted for. And sometimes they need to go into contingency funds, whether it's sewer, water, or the general fund, in order to pay for things that are not contemplated in the budget. That happens all the time, especially when we're dealing with secondhand goods that under General Municipal Law 103 and also under our city code, our city charter, the appendix on purchasing is allowed for secondhand goods without going to RFP. This happens all the time. The harvester, I think, gets your attention because it has something to do with Mr. Pringle. I know you're not a fan of.
It had something to do with shared services with a private company.
Right, which actually happens all the time. Public-private partnerships are more the norm more and more in big cities because cities are trying to avoid increasing taxes and fees. But that being said, I don't see any impropriety there.
This is
number one. And number two, on the other that you mentioned, the boat race has been in the public eye for the better part of the last 2 years. The grants, the main grant that funded that was approved by council, and I believe that resolution did pass with the I Love New York funds through one of the New York State departments. There were public releases and there were press conferences on this for the last 2 years. So that you say that the city has had no say or council has no say, I think is not genuine. If there was a resolution needed for that particular contract, then that should have been passed. And again, I'd have to check and investigate that. The bottom line is, I think, council member, there's some confusion about what DLDC does and what the city does. And if you'd like me to instruct on that, I'd be happy to. But at the end of the day, the chief executive officer for DLDC is also the mayor, by charter, not by Mayor Rosas. That was the case long before Mayor Rosas became mayor. So we can talk about that, but at the end of the day, certain things go through DLDC and certain things go through the city. And they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, with that being said, then it should have been signed by the DLDC as the CEO and that. And one moment, powers and duties of the common council is to give authorization for the execution of contract, deeds, leases, permits.
I know.
And you're confusing 2 different things here because as far as if somebody had to sign a contract, you need the authorization through a resolution through council. That didn't happen.
Which contract?
And then going back, the contract with the RWO, the Race Rule Offshore boating.
Okay.
That was not done. And as far as going back to the appropriations, with the weed harvester and the contingencies, you still need to go through a budget line modification to make a purchase on it. I agree with everything else you said, but a purchase modification was not done, which would have had to been approved. We just are going to go through those tonight where we're doing modifications of the budget. That needs to happen first before anything even gets bought out of contingencies. And we can go back and forth, and I won't bore everybody tonight. I've spoken to the comptroller's office. I've spoken to NICOM about the previous issue about private-public relationships, and I'll get all those ducks in a row. So what I do ask for is a legal written opinion from you, and I do ask the chair this evening that this conversation with the city attorney is verbatim.
Yes, as it was the last time.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
That's the end. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Civiletto.
Hi. So I want to say great job on a couple of things and clear up some stuff from what was said in the public forum. One, congratulations on the dog park. We worked on that for a very long time. I was on the dog park committee, and Rebecca worked on trying to find a spot for that for years. And we finally got it, and everything just fell into place, and it's going to be a fantastic thing. So I want to thank Rebecca and everyone that was on the dog park committee, the people from Purina, the police officers who gave their unwitting support at all times whenever I mentioned it to them, and the public who has been using the heck out of that dog park. I drove by before I got here, and there were 4 cars in the parking lot. There are always cars in that parking lot. So it's a fantastic thing that we have here in Dunkirk that no one else has in Chautauqua County. There's one in Lakewood, but it's tiny and has no trees, and I think ours is better. So on the second thing, as far as public safety goes, I'm the committee member or the committee chairman. When you have, to the gentleman who's on Grant Avenue, when there are fires, please call the police or the fire chief. If that's true, I want to talk to Chief Edwards about that too. Chief Edwards and the fire department have at their discretion to decide whether it's a public nuisance or not, and it has to be a fire that is used for cooking only. Has to be dry wood, not wet, so it doesn't smoke. So if you have a complaint, then Chief Edwards or someone from the fire department, the investigator, can consider it a public nuisance, if I'm not wrong.
Open burning is prohibited, period, in the city. So if anybody, we go on these complaints all the time, us in the police department.
Right.
If there's an open burn and you notice it, or if it's a nuisance, you can contact us or the police department, and we'll try to go to that residence. Normally our procedure is we ask them to put it out the first time, and then if it continues to happen, then they'll actually be given a summons from the police department for that. But I agree with you, it can be a nuisance and you shouldn't have to put up with that, but if you have people that burn near you, please get a hold of us and we'll take care of it.
So I need to call the fire department, not the police?
You can call the police department or the fire department, and the same thing will happen.
Last night, and I went down an hour later, and the fire was still going, and it was smoking more than ever. And the only thing that saved me was it rained, thank God. Put the fire out. Unfortunately, they lowered the fire, but then it got smoky.
All right. I also have, in response to Ms. Nichols and the Whispering Giant, we do agree that we have to make sure that it's protected. But I'm just asking the streets department not to do anything to it, especially polyurethane, unless you are contacting the artist and asking him how to preserve it. We did not do that the last time when we started putting tarp around it, and it rotted because of that. So we have to be absolutely positive that whatever we do to that, we have the artist's permission. I know it's technically ours, but we need his okay on how to protect that, whether it be linseed oil or something else besides polyurethane. That might not be the best thing for it, especially being out in there. There is there's already a project in the works to cover that. We are just basically waiting for the people who are in charge to get rolling, and we have the designs and the engineering report, and it needs to be stronger than what the original design was, because it's going to be on the lake and things. And it got more expensive when he put the feather on the top, because it made it bigger. So we're in the process of doing that, so hopefully by next summer that will be done as well. In response to Mr. Vandervover and his overtime question, We spent $16,000 on overtime of the $300,000 that is budgeted. Is that correct, Marcia? Okay.
Sorry, well, you're kind of correct.
Kind of correct. We have-
If I can just. Is this on? It's on. Okay. All right. Actually, this year, well, first of all, I just want to make sure everyone understands, and also just at home, people, our fellow residents understand.
Can't hear you.
Is this on?
They hear you on TV.
It's on for TV.
Oh, okay.
You need both.
Whoops. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, great. I just want to make sure everybody understands, and including all the residents at home, that in our budget, sorry, I made a mess. In our budget, the mayor actually budgeted nearly $600,000 for overtime, okay? And that includes all of our scheduled events, which would include the boat race, includes the 4th of July, includes basically any event that we plan. So when we sit down at budget time, we do have to budget for all those things. There's many, many, many things that actually cause overtime, right? We all know that. But these items, the item we're speaking of, specifically the boat race, is budgeted for. And I did have the department heads contact me right away about it, and we actually spent less than we did last year. It was just a little over $14,000. I know last year, I think it was a little over $15,000. So we actually came in under budget for this year's boat race overtime. But I just want to make sure everybody understands that's a very small amount. Of the nearly $600,000, we're talking about $14,000 was spent for, you know, such a great successful event for our city residents. So just please keep that in mind, that the mayor does budget for all of those. Those aren't like, oh my gosh, we're spending overtime we weren't expecting to, you know, to have to pay for. That's not true at all. We absolutely budget for all of those. And so anyway. Oh, and also, yes, thank you. Part of, especially with the police department, part of their overtime is actually funded by a Stone Guard grant. I don't know if you're aware of that. So Chief Orlano, he lets me know, he'll submit, because of the border control with it being right on the water, he can actually submit some of those overtime hours to be reimbursed from that Stone Guard grant. So that's an actual, you know, plus to that. So, but just so you know, it was a little over $14,000 out of a budget of nearly $600,000.
All right.
Thank you, Marcia.
And Randy, I'd like you, didn't really catch which Pierce construction complaint Mr. Vandenhoover had. But from what I understand, if Pierce ever does anything for us, like when they helped us with the beach cleanup, that's because we don't have the equipment that they have to complete the task that we need to get done. So can you speak to that, please?
Sure, let me speak to that. I got it.
And I'm not sure what event he was referring to.
Yeah, I'm going to let the mayor
beach
speak
cleanup
after I say a few things. The biggest need was to cut the overgrowth at the United States breakwater that's been out at the outer harbor since 1836 and before. It's owned by the United States. We needed Corps of Engineer permission. When the Corps of Engineer was better funded, they did the maintenance on that. But as you could see, before the boat race, that breakwater was essentially coming apart by the roots and things like that. Plus, it was unsightly for the event. So the biggest part of that is we needed somebody who could handle that. And then we had not maintained the actual beach driftwood for more than a decade. We've decided that we're going to use the local 912 people, supervised by United Steelworkers 2693, to maintain the beaches on a yearly basis so we don't have those huge accumulations where we needed to hire a fast track, a boat and all that kind of stuff. If we can keep at it, then our local forces can handle that. That's my professional opinion, and the mayor has a little bit more on that. But before I pass it on to the mayor, I'd like to reiterate what you said about the Whispering Giant. My mother's been a pen pal of artist Peter Toth since it was carved here, and she's bought all of his books. She buys many of them. If you want to go to any of the local libraries, it's a book donated by my mother in tribute to him and his books and a legacy that we're able to have. The one in New York, there's one in every one of 50 states, and we have the one. It's appraised at about $250,000. It's probably gone up since Wikipedia has given it that number. But I share your passion for that. My mother shares your passion for that. If I didn't, she'd take it out on me. So I promise you, and I promise my mother, we'll take care of the Whispering Giant. And when Peter Toth was here a couple years ago, he worked with a couple of very dedicated city employees, Mr. Ken Seck, who's now retired, big loss to the city, tremendous contributor to the city. The two of them were artists together. As comrades, they rebuilt that. And also Russell Tennemore of Parks. And Mr. Toth told the Parks Department and told Mr. Seck what type of coating to put on that. And prior administrations had wrapped it, and Mr. Toth said, don't ever do that again. Build something so the air can circulate. So immediately Mr. Seck built that temporary wood enclosure that you see in the wintertime. You don't see a tarp around there. You haven't seen a tarp around there for 6 years. So I just wanted to say that we appreciate Mrs. Nichols bringing it to our attention. We know what to do. We will do it. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to tell you how important it is to me and my family. We share your interest. And Mayor, you might want to say something about the beaches.
Yes, as you know, we've been trying to clean up our beaches, Councilman. So, I directed for these beaches to be cleaned up. We knew that we had some driftwood there. We knew we had a lot of it. We also knew that we had weeds behind the Stager apartments. That was an issue. It was inside the water. And also the trees that were growing on the break wall. I personally contacted the regional director of the Army Corps of Engineers, who authorized us and gave us permission to go ahead and take care of that. We just didn't have the proper equipment to do it. So that's why it was a package deal to get the contractor. We actually spoke to 2 different contractors. The contractor we chose was obviously the lower price, and they did a wonderful job on it. I thought the city benefited very much from that job.
Definitely. All right, I'm done.
All right. Just want to say, and I guess first we should probably get into, we need to look at a better sound system here. Because these things are breaking up, and I guess they can hear it at home good now, but now we can't hear here, where before we could hear here well, but we couldn't hear at home well. So I think we need to work on the sound system for both the access channel and the courtroom. That being said...
Need a budget modification, though.
That's fine. That being said, I just want to say I was at the Dunkirk Historical Museum fundraiser on Saturday, and it was a pretty good event. It was outside the city. It was at a place that I never heard of before, but it was pretty nice up there, the Greystone Nature Preserve out on Bear Lake Road. Why I'm bringing that up isn't because I want to say how great of an event it was. While I was there, I talked to the president or chair or whatever Mr. Hertgen is of the Historical Society, and he had said to pass on the word to the mayor and the finance people, and I mentioned to Marcia while I was at the event that currently they get $14,750 in their budget line, and he'd like us to consider putting it up to $17,000. So just to be there, wanted to be on the record. I did relay that message right here, so that's there. The only other thing I have is there was a city resident that passed away last week, and where she lived near the Washington Park, there were a lot of, back in the day, kids that are now grown adults and out places. One gentleman lives in Georgia, and he contacted me. His name's Frank Feckety, and he wanted to know what he could do to put a tree in remembrance or in memory of Mrs. Pucciarelli in the Washington Park across the street from where she lived at 510 Park Avenue. So I had said that I would ask and find out here and see what we can do to plant a tree. I don't think it should be too difficult. Randy, if you know what we need
Sure.
to do for it.
The place to begin would be Pam, the Administrative Assistant of Public Works, and she'll walk anybody right through the process. There are several ways to pay tribute to a loved one in the city of Dunkirk. We have a lot of memorial benches around the city. We have other ways to do that as well. I just recommend that Pam is not the only person that will be involved in this, but she is so good at everything. If you start with Pam, 366-9832, she'll make sure it gets done and be done well. And it's something I'm sure we all will welcome, and we'd like to be there to when it's installed and greet it.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass that word on to Mr. Feckety. Thank you, and that's all I have. We are to unfinished business. We have none. Pre-filed resolutions.
If you have trouble hearing me, please let me know. Number 80, resolution authorizing budget line modifications for 2019.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Carried.
Number 81, resolution tightening access to brush and grass recycling at DPW Lucas Avenue barn location.
I have a question on this for the city attorney. I contacted you about a resolution looking to end the contractor dumping over at the city barns. That seems to be the biggest problem of what the residents in the area are complaining about. Contractors coming in at all different times. There's a lot of issues with that brush pile. The first easiest step that I thought we could take was to try to get stop the contractors from dumping there, and that's not the resolution that you put forward that my name's on. The resolution that I asked for was to stop the contractor use or dumping. Go ahead.
Just so that, we're clear on this thing, this resolution left no language in there for some of our city residents that are older, and I have contractors that come in and take care of their yards for them, and they pull brush. They're going to be charged more if you have no provisions in there for those folks. So I would not be supporting this. If this were to pass, I would have to veto it.
That's not what this resolution is saying here, though. This is, I guess what I'm saying is when I, as a councilman, asked the city attorney to do a resolution one way, to put it out there. If it fails at council, then it fails at council. But to change it without contacting me about it to let me know why you're changing it.
We had no formal discussion on this whatsoever. To go straight to resolution without involving the mayor or anyone else in the administration, I think is wrong.
Well, we've discussed this for over a year at the DPW committee meetings, and the last thing I knew, this was a common council meeting, not a mayor meeting, and this goes as something that is put out by city council, not something that's put out by the city attorney pending approval of the mayor. It's pending approval of city council.
If I could just speak to that, council member, let's just take a breath here. Number one, you sent me an email that had one line saying, please put in a resolution.
We talked about it. In detail the day, actually that same day.
Right, and so
at the DPW committee meeting.
Allow me to finish.
All right, I'm the one that would say that because that's the seat I'm in. So yes, I'll let you finish now.
Thank you, council member. The issue of the piles, just so you understand, and this affects me personally because I live right around the corner. Ms. Bomasudo is a friend and a neighbor, so I know exactly what we're dealing with. The issue is the law of unintended consequences, and that's why I wrote that in here. The piles were created, the city offered this service, and I believe it was started a few administrations ago, again, to be stewards of the community, to be reusing the grass, the brush, the weeds, and everything that's pulled to be able to create compost, mulch, etc. Unintended consequences, we put it in a neighborhood that's surrounded by residences. And so when the wind blows the wrong way, people get dust, and they get scents, and they get the smells. The other unintended consequences, so we opened it up, and we have these certain hours that it's open, but we don't have a camera system in place, and we don't have anybody physically monitoring to see who's coming in and out, whether they're city residents or not. And the issue with the contractors is, and the reason why I said it's something that we need to suss out, Councilmember, and I wasn't in disagreement with you, we did have a discussion on that, is that the issue is a little more complicated than we first realized. And what I recommend, and this is why I said this is to explore this is a conversation that should be had with the affected departments to see the best way to handle this, because it's a little more complicated. Because we have a high renter to owner ratio in terms of properties in the city, and a lot of those landlords contract out for grass and other landscaping services. You have senior citizens who contract out for those services, folks who are disabled who contract out for those services. And if we just did a moratorium on all contractors dumping there, we close the door to that. And so all this resolution does, Councilmember, is to create the door for a further discussion so we can suss it out and create a local law draft that has a carve-out for those kind of things. And I agree with you, and I understand that some of the piles there, it's an issue of policing it, but it's also an issue of folks coming from outside of the city, both non-city residents and contractors dumping in Dunkirk. And so we do need to do something about that. I agree that cameras are an option that we need to explore. I agree with you in the discussion we had with some of the citizens there that the main issue is finding a better place that's more isolated and more rural and less surrounded by residences, not only for the city of Dunkirk, but for other municipalities. And I know those conversations are in the works, but aren't solidified yet. And then the third issue is an agreement that we need to revisit the idea of permits for contractors, and we need to find a way to police that so that the contractors that are needed for city residents and for city-owned properties are allowed access, while keeping out contractors who are dumping from other municipalities and who are just private contractors dumping things that have nothing to do with the city of Dunkirk. And that was the whole point of this. And just so you understand, Councilmember, this isn't trying to usurp your authority or not listen to you. This is about doing my job, trying to protect the city. That includes council, that includes all the administration. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to avoid more unintended consequences if we knee-jerk react to the very real concerns that were raised at that meeting that we all attended.
Okay, those concerns and the discussion about that brush pile and the discussion about what we're going to do with contractor dumping, it's not like it came up that day. We've been talking about it, Randy, we've been talking about it at DPW committee meetings for probably 2 or 3 years.
I motion to table this.
And you're out of line yet. I was in the middle of talking. We'll get to further discussion when I'm done.
During a discussion.
You can. We've discussed this. We've discussed this quite a while ago. We've been discussing it for 2 or 3 years in the DPW committee meeting. So to say that we are just going to have to talk to the department, we've talked to the department. It's been through DPW committee meeting for several years. There's an issue there. We pay thousands of dollars
I
for,
believe that
we have thousands. You're out of order.
I'm not out of order. I've motioned to table.
I'm up here, I'm in the middle of a discussion. You don't just throw out, you want to table something.
Rules of procedure.
So what we're going to do is we're going to keep going with this and talking over each other, and it's up to me to decide.
It's up to the Robert's Rules of Law.
So what we needed to do is we need to do something with it, because what it costs to cut all that stuff and get rid of it is more than what we're taking in for the contractors that are paying. They're paying pennies and we're paying $100 bills to get rid of what's there. So it's not fiscally responsible for the city to continue to do the contractor dumping. Either that, or we need to raise the price to get what we're what we're paying to get rid of it. We're actually subsidizing the contractors by letting them dump there for the little bit that they're paying, and we are paying extra. We're paying double or more to get rid of the stuff. So I mean, one of their other options is the contractor can cut it and put it to the curb when it's time to do curbside pickup. Then that doesn't cost them anything, and we're doing it. And we know it's something that's going to be right from the city of Dunkirk. I believe we have a Hamburg contractor that is on this list of the contractors that are dumping. And are we getting it from Hamburg? Are we getting it from Orchard Park? Are we getting it from anywhere? That's what my basis is on trying to stop this. We are losing money on this contractor dumping. And that's why I wanted it to stop. Plus, it's a nuisance. That's another reason I wanted to stop. The nuisance is the smaller end of the whole thing. The fact that we're losing, it's a money-losing thing for the city is what the biggest problem was. Now, Mr. Civiletto, if you have a motion, go ahead.
I'll second this motion.
I've already motioned twice.
We have a motion to table this, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
It's tabled. New business. Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Heenan to adjourn, second by Councilman Bomano.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.